Daigo on the Street Fighter V launch debacle and hopes for Capcom and Street Fighter 6. Ooh, this is a good one. I haven't seen this yet.
配信が面白く感じるようになり、いつも楽しませていただいています。しかし、将来性という意味で日本の格ゲープロがこのまま続いてくれるのだろうかという不安を強く感じます。その要因は企業側、つまりカプコンの企業姿勢です。何が問題なのかというと、ゲームをヒットさせる要因をプロゲーマーや配信者に依存している割合が大きいと感じる点につきます。開発に関しては必要最低限のコストで即リリース、その後も人件費を抑えて細々と長期的に修正し、その間も集金する。盛り上げはプロが頑張ってね、生活あるでしょという感じです。企業のあり方として、費用を抑えて最大の利益をという姿勢は間違ってはいないと思います。ただ、ユーザーに透けて見える時点で度を越していると感じざるを得ないのです。スト4に関しては高い筐体を売りつけてゲーセンを追い込みましたし、まあ売りつけてってこともねえだろうな。ピースケさんに消えて。スト5の初動に関しては周知の事実なので割愛しますが、もしスト5を梅原さんたちプロの方々が見限っていたら、またはゲームプロの立場が確立していなかったら、その場合、今の盛り上がっている状況はなかったと思います。ストクロやジョジョモンスターのように一瞬で消え去ったでしょう。
Without the pros, the game would have died. I think he did like a Q&A stream. So a lot of these videos have been coming off from this like Q&A thing. I don't think a donation would be this whole like 500-word essay. Oh, my camera's blocking some of it. Hold on.
木戸さんなどの有名プレイヤーを集め、プレイさせ、感想を言わせた時です。梅原さんはこのゲームを面白いと言ってました。そしてその瞳に
Daigo, you said this game was fun, but I saw no light in your eyes, and you looked sad as you said that. Daigo, I believed in you, but it turns out you were a shill. Oh my god.
いや、そんなことはない。
Oh my god, bro. I can't stand people. Ugh. You know how many times people try to tell you that you don't mean what you say, or you don't mean what you feel, and that they try to twist what you're saying and look for evidence to support their own fucking interpretation and their own agenda? I can't stand people. God. So obnoxious. I know what you really feel, Daigo. I know deep down inside you're sad about the state of Street Fighter V. I don't think it's an asshole thing to do. I think it's delusional or overvalue. Like, you're overvaluing your own perspective, or you're naive, you're presumptuous. Yeah, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't always come from a negative place. Like, this person feels like he's trying to let Daigo open up and tell him his truth, because Daigo is begging for someone to free him from this corporate hellhole he's put in where he has to shill for a game he doesn't enjoy. Right? It's delusional and it's belittling, but it's not from a place, it's not like an asshole. Like, it's not like, ha, Daigo, you're a fucking liar. That's from a place of being an asshole, right? This is from this misguided sense of like parentship or like friendship. This is like some parasocial type of thing. You know, it's weird. Sometimes it's weird. Hold on, what I missed? Sorry. Companies in other countries spend so much money on their games, events, and tournaments and hype them. Trend has been slowing down in Japan.
本来日本でこそ盛り上がるべきだろうと思ってしまいます。面白く売れるゲームがあるからプロが成り立つはずが、プロが盛り上げないと
Pros are hyping the games and companies are taking advantage of that. I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of things he's saying. That's an interesting talking point. I feel like the vast majority of any game sales happen up front, which has nothing to do with the competitive scene. But I do strongly feel that the competitive scene and streaming does help to keep games as a service continuously selling DLC. I do think that's very influential. I don't think it's the most influential thing. I think brand, IP, and recognition is the most influential thing. I think even if Street Fighter V put out DLC without a Pro Tour and without streamers, I still think they would have sold DLC. But I do think there is a significant enough portion of DLC sold through the competitive advertisement to make it worth investing in the competitive scene. I don't think it's going to be the majority ever. I think some people vastly overestimate how many sales come from within the 0.1% hardcore players. Because every time a DLC character is announced, the people hyping up and responding to the Street Fighter Twitter account are not people who are watching the CPT every day and watching pros in their regular streams, right? It's just a bunch of normies who like recognize these characters or like check in and dabble here and there. So I don't know, I think it's overstating it.
カプコンさん、ゲーセン作詞の次はゲームプロですか？挑戦的だなこいつ。大会禁止コスト、ステージ修正しない納得いく説明はできますかってなんで俺に言ってくんだよ。カプコンに送れ。
Bro, this guy's straight out of my YouTube comments section. This guy's replying to a random tweet I made. Me and Daigo right now, we're two peas in a pod. Why are you telling me this? Tell Capcom.
まあまあ、
This is a long message? That's what I'm saying.
これに対して正直な気持ちというか、まあ、6がもう出るんで答えると、まず最初に、 スト5って今は
True.
バランスも良くて、まあ PC 版ならね、ラグもほとんどないし、
True.
いいゲームだと思いますよ、バランス的にもね。まあバランスってことで言えば過去最高の格闘ゲームじゃないですか。まあレベルも。
This game is far more balanced than Street Fighter 4, but I don't think balance is the number one most important thing when it comes to an overall package or fun. It does add something to it. If I look at games from 2010 and on, from the games that I knew about, like the Marvel games, Capcom games, even the Tekkens that I watched, not experts in those other games, but for Capcom games, 100% this is way more balanced than any other Capcom game that's been out since Street Fighter 4.
高いしね。でも出たばっかの時はいろいろと問題、まあキャラのバランスもそうだし、まあ遅延の問題とかもそうだし、いろいろと問題があって、で、まあ初動でいろいろとネットの問題周りとかでこけたじゃん。で、それをじゃあプロの人たちがやってなかったら終わってたんじゃないですかっていう指摘は、これは俺は本当に調子乗んだって思われるかもしれないけど。
Ooh, he agrees.
俺たちプロが、本気で
Interesting.
取り組んでやってなかったら、スト5はマジで終わってたと思う。それは本当にそう思う。ただ、
Interesting.
なんだろうな、まあそれって結局、まあ、それってすごい仕事をしたってことじゃないって思うんだよね。カプコンが要するに5でやらかしたと。最初に。やらかしたんだけど、そのやらかしを、まあ一応それで飯食ってその世界にいる奴らの力でなんとか持たしたっていうのはめちゃくちゃ仕事としてやりがいを感じる。
This is such a interesting sentence to say. Because listen, guys, there's something that I've heard, a phrase, an idea that I've heard in this life of mine, the day job life. Sometimes the company will need you, and sometimes you will need the company. That's very much a employer-employee sort of mentality that is prevalent in corporate America. Sometimes the company will need you, sometimes you will need the company, right? There is a give and take there. There's a sense of relationship and duty between the two parties, right? So him saying this in regards to being a professional player with Capcom is very much that mentality of being like an employee. That's interesting to say because I don't think the American scene feels that way at all. I don't think you could see a single American player who would share that strong of a bond with Capcom in terms of like uplifting them through a hard time. I really don't think that would exist. In the American scene, it's more like you need to deliver a good product or else we're gonna bail because this sucks. That's interesting that he feels personal success, personal satisfaction with helping to carry a game through a hard time. And that he, I guess as a pro, I guess you feel partially responsible. That's interesting.
実際それでさ、みんな生活してるから文句はない。
We don't want to complain.
みんな感謝はあると思う。やったぜみたいな風に思ってる人はいなくて、こんな風に俺が言うとやったったぜって思ってると思われるかもしれないけど、そんなことは思ってなくて、いや本当になんていうか、なんだろうね、仕事させてもらったなっていう感じ。まあこれを言うと結局なんかカプコンディスのように。
Don't diss Capcom. Damn, he's feeling himself. See, Punk, if Punk was here, he'd be like, damn, Street Fighter 5, Season 1, Season 2, that shit was buggy as hell. The only reason anyone played it, watched it, because I'm out there smoking everybody, you know? I also feel like it's interesting to think that the pro scene actually carried hard enough to get DLC and eyeballs and enough potential funding to keep creating DLC and content for the game. And that because of the pro competitive scene, enough people were interested and kept buying the DLC. I wonder what the numbers on that are. Obviously, Capcom spent a lot of money on the CPT and the Pro Tour, so it must be worth the investment, right? They must feel like this actually does drive sales. But I personally still feel like it does help stretch the end life of the game. But I don't know. I don't know if I agree with how heavy the pro scene carried Season 1 to Season 2. Think of Daigo's context as a person, though. He came up when his job didn't even exist from a society that can be very isolating if you buck trends. To him, this modern gaming scene is the closest he's ever had to being legitimate. Yeah, good way to look at it. I can definitely see a lot of people from the Japanese scene valuing the relationship with the developer and treating this more like a profession, right? I always say I think there's very few true professionals in the fighting game community. Daigo is one who I would put under that. I think we have very talented players, but I think even in the American scene, like for example, Punk is one of the best fighting game players of all time, but his profession is not really being a Street Fighter 5 player, right? He's a brand on his own. He's his own brand. Whereas I think a lot more of the Japanese scene, like they are competitors in a league and a tour. Like they are people who are like basketball players in the NBA, where Punk is more like he is a superstar on his own. He does streaming, he does YouTube, he is a personality. Even though he's the most winningest Street Fighter 5 player ever, right? His main gig is really just being his own thing, and he can do that in many games and many avenues. Yeah, Daigo's a brand too, but he still is trying to fill his lane as a pro Street Fighter player. That lane, it was getting more defined, and then COVID hit, and it's gone for American competitors.
聞こえるかもしれないけど、まあ、結構それは本当に正直な気持ちで、まあ、仕事させていただきました今回は。5に関してはね、仕事をさせていただきました。
I think that's so interesting. I did my job with Street Fighter V. He really feels personal like accomplishment for helping to grit his teeth and get through the really crappy season 1. Season 2 was a little rough too, but I felt like the game was getting better. Season 3 was like the game's release, arcade edition.
俺たちが一丸となってやってなかったら、終わってた。
That's very interesting.
でもその甲斐あって6が出るわけじゃん。これはだからもうカプコンからのまあもちろん仕事なんだけど、俺はカプコンからのもうご褒美だと思って。5を俺たち頑張ったご褒美が6っていうゲームで、まあ、6っていうゲームがどういうゲームか知らないけどね、すげえまたさがっかりするってことあるかもしれないけど、まあでも俺はそれはないと思うんだ。5もどんどん良くなってってるし、多分スタッフもどんどん優秀になってってる。
I think this is huge. Daigo talked about Street Fighter V being really balanced and a good game right now. I think Street Fighter V's trajectory has just been up and up. Street Fighter V is very, very fun right now. I feel like there's passion from the current developers and producers and everything. I do agree. I think the game's getting better and better. I feel like they know what they want to do, and they want to do something cool and fun. Luke is obviously egregious. Like they're trying to force DLC and force you to be like, hey, look, here's Luke. Everybody watching the pro scene who's casual, remember this character because Luke, you're going to see Luke. He's going to be our next guy. Let's make sure he's top tier so all the pros play him. If Daigo's theory is true and the competitive scene does carry that much weight, I'm even more confident that Luke is that busted because they want everyone to play him because he's going to be the advertisement for Street Fighter 6. Thank you, Flame Octopus, for the 19 months. Thank you.
それはね、ご褒美だと思うんだよね。5は正直こっちがケツ持った。こっちはケツついた部分はある。
Damn, I'd say we wiped their ass this time. This is one of the beefiest FGC translated videos I've ever seen. This is wild. You know what they say? Sometimes you wipe the company's ass, sometimes the company wipes your ass, you know?
でもその結局さ、いろんなそのカプコンカップとかさ、カプコン側もイベントやってくれたしさ、お金も使ってくれたしさ、で結果6が出るんでしょ。最高じゃんね。めちゃめちゃ最高だと思う。本当に6作るって言った人にありがとうと言いたい。
Yeah, Daigo really wants just to keep the competitive scene going.
ないと思うけど、絶対そのこうゲームをなんかこう調整したりとか、スト5をこう運営していくときにプロっていうのは絶対、なんて言うんだろうな、その計画の中の要素としてあるはずじゃん、絶対に。プロなんか無視でいいでしょってなってないから、そこはね、なんかね、まあ持ちつ持たれつ。
I wonder if this is the perspective of a Japanese professional. You know what I mean? I've talked to all the top Western players. I don't think they feel like Capcom Japan listens to them at all. Daigo is very connected. Obviously, Daigo is Daigo, right? If there's going to be any player that has influence or has some kind of inside contact or something, it's going to be Daigo, right? I wonder if other top Japanese players feel the same way. Because I know top American players don't feel like Capcom listens to them at all. I mean, items in the chat, do you feel like they listen to you? Did Laura get buffed enough? Yeah, Punk angrily tweets at them once every 6 months, right? So I wonder if this is a Daigo thing or a wider like top player in Japan thing to feel this connection. I feel like the American scene and the Western scene very much feels like they're at the mercy of Capcom to do some random crap and see what happens. If they nerf V-Shift, they're good in my book. God, I hope, you know what? I hope they don't fucking listen to top players. I hope Daigo's wrong because all Item's been doing is bitching about V-Shift and he started doing YouTube content with like, you know, clickbait thumbnails about V-Shift is too strong. Listen to my propaganda here because it's packaged in a nice YouTube thumbnail. I want to play Laura again and make the game miserable for everyone else. Oh my god, they better not listen to a damn thing you're saying.
こっちもまあ正直、俺はストリートファイター好きだからね。別にプロゲーマーって格闘ゲームやんなきゃいけないわけじゃないだろうし、ストリートファイターやんなきゃいけないわけでもないのかもしれないけど、まあ俺はストリートファイター好きだし。そこは持ちつ持たれつなんじゃないかなって。
Do you think we and Capcom are all in this together? Wow.
で、あと、この人が言ってる。
Wow, that's so interesting to hear.
ゲームに多大な費用をかけイベント大会も今日本は下火。本来日本でこそ盛り上がるべき。面白く売れるゲームがあるからプロが成り立つはずが、プロが盛り上げないとゲームが成り立たない。そしてそれを利用する企業。今の日本のゲーム企業の視点というのは、まあ確かにさ、それはさ、元気があるときは どんなさ、メーカーや会社もさ、これは横綱相撲でさ、ね、お金がたくさんありゃできますよ。うん。これは別にカプコンに限ってることじゃなくて、別にゲームっていう世界に限ってることじゃなくて、そんなもん体力ある会社はさ、それは横綱相撲しますよ。王道行きますよ。
Is it sustainable is the question.
体力あると思ってね。ただ、格ゲー部門に関しては正直そんな良さ
Capcom is making bank. All their IPs are killing it. Do they give that money to Street Fighter?
悪い時期っていうか、そのうまくいってない時期を見て、それが全てだっていうふうには俺は思わないのね。まあ今苦しい時期なんだろうなっていう。うん。で、苦しい時期で、俺ね、これやっぱその、なんだろう。いや別にモンハンとさ、あと、
Resident Evil?
あと他何があるの逆転裁判と、あとはなんだ、くるくるっていうダンテが出てくるやつとかさ。
DMC?
それだけは作っときゃいいじゃん。格ゲーなんかさ、こんなね、埃かぶったさ、カビの生えた。
Oh, he said it. No, we all know it's true deep down. It's true. And I think Daigo knows this is a house on stilts. I think Daigo is in a position where he knows that this is a passion project at this point for Capcom. And at any moment, if they take it away, it's no skin off Capcom's bottom line. Probably going to save them more money or make them more money to stop funding Street Fighter. I can definitely see where he feels like he's willing to do whatever it takes, grit his teeth, get through it, do whatever he can to feel like he's contributing to keeping this alive. It's really true. It's a house on stilts.
埃かぶったさ、カビの生えたさ、ジャンルなんか本当は作んなくていいじゃん。まあ知らんけど、どういう計画練ってるか知らんけど、それ作ってくれる時点で、いや、それよくねっていう。こんだけファイルこけたのにさ、作ってくれるんだよ。だし、あともう一個言うと、この人はマジで分かってないなと思うのは、カプコンの作るゲームって面白いからね。これはまずこの人は完全に間違ってて、勘違いしてて、スト5とかスト4を見て、つまんないゲームしか作れないゲームの会社だと思ってるかもしれないけど、あれ、これは仮の姿で、本当、カプコンの本当の姿。
I love when Daigo does rag on Street Fighter 5 because he always makes a parallel to like another old game that sucks. So he didn't just say, you might just think they look at Street Fighter 5 and think they make bad games. He said Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5.
マジで面白いゲームを作る会社だから。俺たちはただその覚醒の時を待ってるだけだから。そこをね、勘違いしない方がいいと思う。本気出したら本当にすごいゲーム作るから。そこはちょっと早く覚醒してほしいな。
I hope Capcom awakens soon. Oh, man. Dude, this video hit so hard. I was not expecting this. Wow, this is a heavy hitting video. Man. Yeah, Daigo really truly feels like he's part of this and this history with this franchise. He saw Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 did have a horrible release, one of the worst releases of any video game I've ever seen in my entire life. And I think it's a very respectable game today. Very respectable. I'm glad Daigo feels like he had a part in that. I can definitely see that like being a big proud thing. On the other hand, it's funny because I don't know, should I feel proud of that? Like, it's something that I try to do. You know, I wanted to make this game seem fun. Daigo's way bigger than me, so I don't want to compare myself to Daigo. That's not what I'm trying to do. But in the sense of doing content, I had a similar goal of getting more people to enjoy Street Fighter. But I don't feel like the impact that has is anything compared to the company releasing a good product. When he was reading about the guy's initial comment, who was super salty, he was saying that it's the company's job to release a good game to carry the pro players, not the pro players' job to hype up the game. And I 100,000% agree. I personally feel like there's nothing that the competitive scene, pro players, whatever content creators can do to overcome a bad product. The big problem with Street Fighter 5 was I felt Season 1 gameplay was okay. It wasn't good. It wasn't great. I think the gameplay now is great. Season 1 gameplay was okay. But beyond that, the product was dog shit. The netcode was garbage, even worse than it is now. And I think the netcode now is definitely not where it should be for sure, but I still think it's overstated how people call it bad and meme on it. But back then, netcode was garbage, worse than it is now. Everyone's running on PS4, laggy input delay, 8 frames of delay. Lobbies didn't work. CFN was constantly disconnecting you. There was all kinds of bugs. Stage transitions weren't in there. There's only like 16 characters, lots of gameplay bugs, really jank mechanics. It was just a horrible product. No content, no story mode, no arcade mode. It was bad. And I don't think there's nothing Daigo or anyone can do to overcome that. I do think the competitive scene can help maintain a certain level of retention, but it's not the gains it makes from beyond that, beyond the scope of the product, drawing audiences itself, is very minimal in my opinion. You might get 1 or 2 new people here and there. I know for a fact I've gotten a few new people into the genre, into the game, because people tell me, they leave YouTube comments and they'll tweet at me or they'll let me know in Twitch chat, whatever. So I do know that there's some people, but while that's really meaningful to me in a way, I don't think there's any amount of work any individual or set of content creators or pro players could do to overcome a bad product ever. But it's cool to see that Daigo feels like they buckled down and carried it to fruition to let Capcom get their shit together, get DLC pumping out, promote it via the CPT, get people buying it, for them to make enough profit to justify keep releasing content, and then eventually Street Fighter 6. So I don't know where the numbers really line up. I wonder how that really actually impacted this decision to bring about Street Fighter 6 or not. That would be a great addendum to this. I would wonder what Daigo thinks about content creation. The Japanese scene is getting, they've been dabbling their toes more in that. Nemo's been a lot more proactive, doing stuff on YouTube and everything. Daigo streams regularly, even though it's not like YouTube-y content creation. He plays the game. He did a Q&A stream, obviously. I wonder how much he feels like that is relevant too, including players who aren't professional players but are content creators. I also wonder what he thinks of, like, where is the line for a pro player? Like, would he consider me a pro player? Would he consider Shine a pro player? I wonder what that line is for him too. Is Just a Kid a pro player? Smug is a big question. Is Smug a pro player? Punk is a little fuzzy. I would lean towards calling Punk a pro player for sure. Justin, I don't think is a pro player right now. Punk is pro, he's sponsored. Being sponsored does not guarantee that you are a pro player, is what I would say by my own definition. Idom wasn't sponsored for years after he won Capcom Cup. Was Idom not a pro? So I'm kind of curious what he thinks about that. What he thinks about content creation, the line between pro and amateur. What does he mean by pro really? I'm kind of curious what he thinks about all that. But yeah, that was a really great video. Really interesting discussion.